80 years ago, Operation Overlord was a go.
It's known as D-Day, a pivotal battle with a heavy toll.
They left everything they knew, their farms and their families. They crossed an ocean, knowing many would not return.
I laid among the dead and ordered my men to lay down and play dead too.
As more first-hand history fades, we share the stories of the bold and the brave.
Tonight, we honor those heroes, saluting service and sacrifice.
And good evening, and thank you for joining us for 10 News at 6. We're live again here at the Bedford D-Day Memorial.
80 years ago today, the course of history changed forever.
It certainly did. That happened when the largest group of military forces ever assembled invaded the coast of France to fight against Nazi Germany.
Their sacrifice on D-Day, and that of so many others over the next several months, is seen now as the start to the end of World War II.
There was a big ceremony here earlier today honoring all of those people who were involved. And 10 News reporter Sydney Jackstimer joins us now with the latest on what transpired here earlier today. Sydney.
Yeah, well, John, Rachel, it was really a breathtaking ceremony earlier today honoring those over 4,000 Allied troops, the lives lost 80 years ago on the beaches of Normandy. Now, 2,000 of those lives were Americans, and 19 of those men were from right here in Bedford.
The Bedford boys defined us as a nation of patriots, a nation of liberators, a nation of heroes that day.
Hundreds of people taking time out of their day to remember the thousands of men who lost their lives on the beaches of Normandy 80 years ago. 19 of those men from Bedford, like Jack Powers. His nephew, Larry Powers, was at Thursday's event.
It was very moving. I've got an uncle on the wall here. Another one was there at D-Day, but his boat sank. For this to happen in Bedford, it's very moving. For the veterans that were here today, that was very moving also.
Dan Valerio, U.S. Marine Corps.
22 World War II veterans attended the ceremony, each one recognized for their service.
This was just awesome. I just thought, I've never been, this is the first, and I'm so glad I came. It was very emotional.
Just to keep the memory of everybody that had passed on that day, to honor the veterans. That's what we need here more than anything, to keep passing it on to the younger folks.
The younger folks, like fourth grader Soleil Jaitley, who came to the ceremony from Blacksburg.
What do you think when you come to the memorial here?
Sadness for the people who died at Normandy and happiness for the veterans who are still alive.
Now, if you weren't able to make it out to the National D-Day Memorial today, there will be events happening all weekend long honoring the 80th anniversary. John, Rachel.
All right, thank you, Sydney. And the town of Bedford had the highest loss per capita on D-Day, and that's why this is here.
That's why the memorial is here. And 10 News anchor John Epicello joins us live now. John, you have the story of another hero who was honored.
Indeed, the story of the Bedford boys resonates with America. Well, I'll tell you what, also right here in Bedford, it's worn as a badge of pride and courage, especially if you're in the business of being a first responder of any kind. So keep that in mind. They were easy to spot today if you were at the ceremony. The Bedford Fire Department sporting these special OD green shirts. Special thanks going out to the Bedford Memorial folks for allowing the military side to sport the D-Day Memorial Overlord Arch on the back. The shirts include, of course, the 29th Infantry patch and the Alpha Company Battalion flag of the Bedford boys. The deputy chief explains that the department has deep ties to the history and to the Bedford boys themselves.
Being from Bedford myself, growing up here, the history of some of our members who had family members that served in that unit, we always correlate ourselves very closely with the sacrifice that they gave that day, and how we're very prideful that they're from here and the story they brought and how the memorial is here, and we get to be the ones that protect it and serve to it.
And they were doing a great job today. It was hot out here today during this event, and some people were overcome by the heat, but they had the help they needed. The Bedford Fire Company was busy and helpful and doing a great job today. Guys, back to you.
All right, thank you, Appy. And while there was an announcement that they're closing the memorial just now, but I can tell you that while we listened to that while they were doing the dedication here today, there was also a big ceremony in Normandy, France as well.
That's right, and the site of that overlooks Omaha Beach, and it's a final resting place for more than 9,000 Americans. President Biden recognized those who paid the ultimate sacrifice, but was also joined by several veterans who are among a dwindling number of D-Day survivors.
Nearly 10,000 heroes buried side by side, officers and enlisted, immigrants and native-born, different races, different faiths, but all Americans, all serve with honor when America and the world needed them most. On behalf of the American people, and as Commander-in-Chief, it's the highest honor to be able to salute you here in Normandy once more. All of you, God love you.
President Biden today in Normandy, other dignitaries in attendance, including the presidents of France and Ukraine, along with Britain's Prince William.
And that wraps up our coverage of the 80th anniversary for 10 News at 6. For now, we'll send it back to 10 News anchor Duke Carter.
All righty. Thank you, John and Rachel and the WSLS team for those special reports on the greatest generation.